Good morning. I'm Greg Cooley, one of the Sunday school teachers here at First United Methodist Church in Corinth, Mississippi. Thank you for joining in with us as we talk about Job. And actually, this is our last in the study of Job, principle number 21. We've looked at Job for quite a while now, haven't we? Well, Job goes on for 42 chapters. If you've ever studied Job, it seems that the middle chapters just seem to be the same thing over and over. And you're asking yourself in your 20th century lifestyle, from your 20th century point of view, get on with it. But you know, sometimes life just doesn't get on with it, doesn't it? Sometimes life is a struggle. Sometimes life is a challenge. Sometimes life, takes its time to get through this season, doesn't it? A really good thing to learn from Job is that we have to hang in there. Endurance is a really good quality to have. And so here we are at the 42nd chapter of Job, and we're on principle number 21. And this principle is God is always about teaching. I used to work for a coach, and the coach was very famous and very principled and very accomplished. And he used to tell those of us who worked with him, "Son, every day is about me testing you. Every day is about me testing you. I want to see what your capabilities are. I want to see what your dedication is. I want to see what your knowledge is. I want to see how committed you are. Every time I ask you to do something, it's not just busy work. It's me testing you." And you know, to a large extent, my experience with God is like that. God is either testing and teaching, or He's blessing and consoling in my life. Probably in yours too. But God is always about growing me, about teaching me, about allowing me to expand. God is in every day, in every challenge, in every experience, good and bad, about giving me a learning experience. Job realized this. You know, God, I learned through this. I didn't enjoy all of it. Not all of it was easy. Some of it was painful. Some of it involved loss. But you taught me. You humbled me. You grew me. And you and I need to be taught and humbled and grown. Two options in our life when trouble comes. One option is to see the trouble as an intrusion and to greet it with outrage. I'm not happy with this, God. I don't want to do this, God. I don't want to learn this. I don't want this pain. Get it away from me. And many times that's the way we are. Naturally, it's the way we are. It's our animal instinct to see something that challenges me as an intrusion and to greet it with outrage and knock it away and try to seek revenge on whatever source sent it to me. And boy, those things make good movies, don't they? They entertain us, and they really speak to that base side of our nature. Intrusion, outrage, revenge, challenge. Or we can see challenge as God wants us to see it, as an opportunity for me to grow, for me to learn, for me to beam. Beam. Yes. B-E-A-M. Beam. Now, if you ran to your Webster's dictionary or whatever form of dictionary you use, or the Merriman thing, and you have the app, whatever you do, put in the word beam. those 4 letters, B-E-A-M, you're going to see that beam can be in the form of a verb or a noun, right? And actually, the noun beam can be 2 or 3 different things. You could have a steel beam, as in this building. You could have a wooden beam that has been hewn down. You could be a beam of light. You can be a beam of particles. Yes. Go back to your days of physics and think about a beam. I want you to be all of the above. And we are just addressing the noun beam. What about the verb? Well, let me read to you. The verb beam is to transmit, as in a radio signal or a broadcast signal, maybe a specified direction we need this beam, this energy, this broadcast to go. How about a beam of light from the source to the end? A shining brightly beam. That can be a beam. A verb saying he beams when he speaks. Or a face, an emotion. She was beaming as she came down the aisle on her wedding day. A radiant smile she gave to us. A beaming smile. On the noun side, we have this long, sturdy piece of squared timber or a metal piece of steel that is there to beam an expanse, to give support, to show balance. What about you? Have you ever been expressed or explained or described as a beam for God? Let's go on the noun side. You ever been that beam of light? You ever received a beam of light from somebody else? A word, a face, a message, a song that came to you when you're at your darkest moment, and suddenly, boom, that light came on. You've had one of those light bulb moments, haven't you? Where God spoke to you either directly through your prayer or through your reading or through His still small voice, or God spoke to you through somebody else, through their word, their message, their smile. A beam, a warm, radiant beam. How about being a noun beam in another form, like that hewn piece of timber or that piece of steel that spans this expanse here, that gives stability to something? You ever been that beam? You ever needed that kind of beam in your life when it felt like everything was falling apart? God teaches me and gives me opportunities from time to time to grow into a beam. Not just for myself, but for somebody else. In fact, I believe that Job really didn't have a whole lot he needed to learn here. Yeah, he needed to learn some more dependence on God, and he needed to learn some humility. And we've talked about that through these previous 20 principles we have shared together. But to a large extent, I think Job was there as an example to go through this for you and for me. Much of my learning can be about somebody else. They can be learning as they're watching me. You ever gone in a cancer ward? You ever been in a COVID unit? You ever seen somebody handle the challenges of life physically in such a miraculous, such a strong, such a faith-filled way that it was a blessing to you? A beam of God's light and revelation. So I can choose which two options that I am going to follow, use, exemplify when I'm faced by challenge. I can be outraged. I can see this challenge as an insult and an intrusion, or I can see it as an opportunity to learn and grow and be a beam. A beam in his community, a beam in his family, a beam to the kingdom, a beam to the world, either of light or of strength. I can be the verb beam. I can shine for somebody else. I can be bright. And you know, example is a wonderful thing. God may be growing me not just for myself, but He may be growing me so that I can be an inspiration to somebody else who is being challenged right now. And they're trying to decide, am I going to meet this challenge seeing it as an intrusion and therefore I'm outraged, or am I going to meet this challenge as an opportunity and therefore I'm taught? Remember, the principle is God is always. And if you're writing this down, write down the word always with capital letters. God is always about teaching, growing, developing. In this last chapter of Job, Job chapter 42, we hear Job say this. Then Job looked and answered the Lord. Verse 1, chapter 42. I know that you can do all things, and that no purpose of yours can be thwarted. Who is this that hides counsel from me and my understanding? You. Therefore, I have uttered what I don't understand, things that are too wonderful for me now to understand, which I did not know before. Hear, and I will speak. I will question you, Lord, and you will declare to me. You always do. I had heard of you by the hearing of my ear, but now my eye sees you and your ways. Therefore, I despise my former self, and I repent now in dust and ashes. Job speaking to God. After God spoke to Job, and Job was humbled, and Job learned, then Job says, I know you. I know your ways won't be thwarted. I know you've spoken, and I know that your purposes are now known, and I know I was operating previously without true knowledge. And I know that now some things that I didn't know that are too wonderful. And I'm ashamed that I actually despise my former self. Sometimes when God teaches me, sometimes when you learn, I look back on my former knowledge, just as Job did, and I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed, first of all, that I didn't know it already. I've been a Christian quite a few years. I'm ashamed of the way I acted. I'm ashamed of how immature maybe I was. I'm ashamed of how other people saw me handle that situation. And it wasn't a really good example of how a true believer should act. Because when I really know God, and I really realize parts of His nature as they become apparent to me, I realize He's always teaching me. Or He's always trying to. Always. You know some of the most rewarding times you've had with your children? Or some of the most rewarding times you've had with your parent was during a time of teaching and learning and sharing. You ever stood by a parent as they were passing away? That's a teaching, learning, sharing, growing moment. Especially if that parent is a member of the household of faith, and those last words, they're marvelous. You'll never forget them. You ever, on the other end of the life spectrum, you ever been there when a baby was born? And think about all the opportunities this child is going to have to grow and to learn and to be and to become what God created them to be. Boy, what is God teaching you now? God teaches me in so many ways, through the circumstances of life, through the people around me, through my own challenges, through my own weaknesses. And He does the same with you, right? God is always about teaching. That's why one of the reasons He left us His Word. His inspired Word through the voice and through the conduit of the personalities of the faithful. Those people that God inspired and said, write this down. I want to communicate with those who are coming after. So if it's written by God and written by godly people, maybe I should pay more attention to it. Maybe I should learn from His Word. Maybe we need to learn from His Word. Maybe we need to learn from His example. Maybe we need to learn from the example of others that are stronger in the faith than we. Maybe we need to learn through our own circumstances, and maybe through our own growing, our own learning, so that we can become a being. Verb and noun. I pray that today you will become a being, that you will learn, and you will thank God for this principle. God is always about teaching me, always about bringing me closer, as He is for you. God bless you.